prayers, and maybe if you haven't done so, you can already pull up verses on your computer, phone, or choose to just look at the screen share. And that's Srimad Bhagavatam 10:67, 12 to 16. Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tirai Vanachari Yamuna Tirai Vanachari Yamuna Tirai Vanachari. Krishna is the lover of Radha. He displays many amorous pastimes in the groves of Vrindavan. He is the lover of the cowherd maidens of Braj, the holder of the great hill named Govardhan, the beloved son of Mother Yashoda, the delighter of the inhabitants of Raj, and he wanders in the forests along the banks of the river Yamuna. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmiritam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. This universe embraces each one of us, yet we can be so blinded by darkness. Because our true teachers guide us with the torchlight of knowledge, our eyes can be opened to the power and sweetness of illumination. Therefore, let us bow down to all those who guide us on our spiritual path. Namah Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Murti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatyadeshatarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasani Shri Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Here's a prayer by Surdas I often share. I offer my obeisances to my spiritual master who gave me beautiful Kantimala, effulgent tilak, the beautiful form of a devotee, and who offered me the shelter. In one of his hands he is holding my hand, and with his other hand he is holding the lamp of knowledge, which helps me to cross over the dark ocean of the material world. Surdas says, my guru deserves the greatest respect because only he can rescue one in the blinking of an eye. I bow to him again and again and again. And with that, before I even start reading and going into our verses, I do want to ask for the blessings of those gathered to say something worth your attention and time. And I hope that we can lead ourselves closer to the communion with the divine stories we're about to encounter through reading, and that they really find the residence in our hearts. And as I said at the beginning as well, I do have this sense that devotee association is such a rare occurrence, especially in this reality or this world. And here we are gathered to hear Srimad Bhagavatam and choosing this morning to first and foremost say yes to our relationship with divine couple and those who lead us to their service. And so thank you for that. It is not something to be taken lightly. And I also want to read a quote from Bhaktitirtha Swami from one of his books, Spiritual Warrior 3. This is from chapter 6. I will first read, and I think you understand why I bring it here. We cannot understand spiritual realities by scholarship alone. Although study is important, the path of spiritual realization is through dedicated selfless service. As we offer service to others with no expectation of reward, the Lord in the heart becomes more available to us and provides for our needs because we have removed the veils that hide the truth. And so let that be just a little reminder that although we are applying our intelligence and heart to engage in this class, for me to also speak, fundamentally service and that loving connection and surrender of the heart is the most important to actually truly understand such elevated topics of Lord, the Supreme Lord, and his companions. And with that, I will share the screen. I just need to backtrack to verse 12, so just give me one moment. Okay. Here we go. So let us start. Again, it is Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, chapter 67, verse 12, going to 16. Tasya dastriyam kapel viksha tarunyo jati chapalaha hasya priya vijaha sur baladeva parigraha. Translation. The exalted the disciples and servants of Srila Prabhupada. When Lord Baladev's consorts saw the ape's impudence, they began to laugh. They were, after all, young girls who were fond of joking and prone to silliness. Chahilayam asaka pir prukshapar samukativi darshayan svagudantasam ramasya cha nirikshitaha. Even as Lord Balaram looked on, Dvivida insulted the girls by making odd gestures with his eyebrows, coming right in front of them and showing them his anus. Srila Prabhupada writes, the gorilla was so rude that even in the presence of Balaram, he began to show the lower part of his body to women, and sometimes he would come forward to show his teeth while moving his eyebrows. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti states that Dvivida would come right up to women and move about, urinate, and so on. Let's continue. Tam gravna praharat kruto balak praharatam varaha savancha itva gravanam madhira kalasham kapnihi Kritva halayam asad turtastam kopayan hasan nirbhitya kalasham tushto vasam yas palayat palam. And this is the only meter I know, so I know this is not for that verse, but I'll just continue. Kadati kritya palavan viprachakre madotataha. Angered, Lord Balaram, the best of fighters, hurled a rock at him, meaning Dvivida, the demon, but the cunning ape dodged the rock and grabbed the Lord's pot of liquor, further infuriating Lord Balaram by laughing and by ridiculing him. Wicked Dvivida then broke the pot and offended the Lord even more by pulling at the girl's clothing. Thus the powerful ape, puffed up with false pride, continued to insult Sri Balaram. And this is our final verse. Tam tasya vinayam dristva deshamscha tad upadrutam krutomusalam adata alam chari chikam sayal. And here we go into synonyms, verse by verse. Tam tat, that, tasya his, avinayam, rudeness, dristva, seeing, deshan, the kingdoms. Cha and tat by him, Upadrutan disrupted, Krudaha angry, Musalam his club, Adata took, Halam his plow, Cha and Ari the enemy, Jighamsaya intending to kill. Translation: Lord Balaram saw the ape's rude behavior and thought of the disruptions he had created in the surrounding kingdoms. Thus the Lord angrily took up his club and his plow weapon, having decided to put his enemy to death. Purport: the word avinayam means without humility. Trivida, completely lacking in modesty and humility, shamelessly performed the most wicked activities. Lord Balaram knew of the great disturbances Dvida had caused to people in general, apart from the vulgar behavior the ape was exhibiting in the Lord's own presence. The offensive ape would now have to die. And that's where we end for today. This is quite a cliffhanger. Okay, so thank you, Donald, for saying that you're grateful to be here. I can post the poetry right now before I forget. And I imagine that you're asking on behalf of the desire of others as well. So here you go. And that I heard from Indradyumna Swami in one of his lectures and wrote it down and was like, absolutely, I'm going to just share it further. So let's just kind of bring a context first to where we are in this chapter. So this is chapter 67 of the Saman Banam of Srimad Bhagavatam, the Canto 10. And it's titled Lord Balaram Slays Dvivida Gorilla. So we already know what this pastime is about. But also it begins with a question from King Parikshit, not forgetting that Bhagavatam is really the setting between, or set in conversation between King Parikshit, who is hearing and asking questions to Shukadev Goswami, who is speaking the entire Bhagavatam. And so King Parikshit is already days into hearing Bhagavatam, and his heart is directing him to seek to know more about the wonderful Lord Balaram. And so without this loving desire to know about Lord Balaram, we would not have a chance to hear this pastime. So this is one just moment to even offer gratitude that actually so much comes from association of devotees, from hearing even conversations between devotees and exalted personalities, and to trusting that even the questions of somebody else are actually a blessing to us, because the answer is often something that would be revealed that we otherwise may not have a chance to even know. And so further context here is that Dvivida in these verses, well, in the last verse it's a little bit different, but in these verses I claim to say that he seems simply foolish. And there's some change in the further verses, but leading up to this point in this pastime, he actually has been really exhibiting a lot of his powers. In these verses, I think he is kind of just presented as this foolish ape doing wicked things and misbehaving, but really leading up to this, has been demolishing forests, like pulling out trees of sacred lands. He's been setting up fires in the homes of Vaishnavas. He's been disrupting and protesting sacrifices and offerings being made to the Supreme Lord and any kinds of worships. And he's been kidnapping devotees for no reasons, just for fun, just to exhibit his anger. He would kidnap female and male-bodied devotees, put them somewhere in caves, close the caves, and just keep them there. And so it's clearly that sign of like, this is really a misused power. Through those examples, it clearly is shown that he has some Shakti wherever it comes from. And also clearly, this Shakti, those powers are misused. And so that is already a lesson that any skill that we have, any power that we hold, and of course that we should know the origin of those power, or remember the origin of those powers and being rightfully situated in reality of that. but to not use that power or that skill in serving or in working with that compassion and sensitivity to other being, it's really a lost opportunity for one's spiritual life, and it's really detrimental to one's life in general. And so with that, I want to read from Bhagavad Gita about offering our skills and everything to the Lord as a reminder of teachings of Krishna, that he has yet another beautiful conversation, which is, because Bhagavad Gita is the conversation between Arjuna and Krishna. So this is Bhagavad Gita, chapter 6, verse 27-28. And this is the Beloved Lord's Secret Love Song, by Graham M. Schweig, which is also Garuda Das Kaviraj in our beautiful movement. For such a yogi whose mind is peaceful, ultimate happiness is attained, and whose passion is calmed, who is without impurity, becomes united with Brahman. Thus, with the self always absorbed in yoga, the yogi who is completely free from impurity happily enjoys the contact with Brahman boundless happiness. Sorry. Just realized that I think I actually even wrote the wrong verse for some reason. And I'm trying to actually find the proper verse, and I feel like it may be also a waste of time of this class. But I wanted to bring a verse about offering skills and everything, and somehow I actually am making a fool of myself right now. But I'm going to proceed and just wanted to bring a verse that actually shows about how offering ourselves completely brings ourselves closer to the Lord. And I'll just continue here. So in this pastime, what I found beautiful, and again, this is not in those verses, it's previously, Balaram is shown also as a supremely attractive Lord, to be that enters into the mountain range where Lord Balaram is sitting with his companions, because he hears the Lord's sweet singing. And in that pastime, the Lord Balaram is intoxicated actually by the Varuni liquid. And also that's a reminder that the Lord is beyond rules and regulations. But still, it shows that Lord Balaram is so attractive that even a demon who is so covered in ignorance and doing all those crazy things is still attracted to actually go and hear the source of that sweet, melodious singing of Lord Balaram. And also in the verse 12, this demon enters. I actually will show you the picture of this demon. Let me show. I just found this painting, and I actually never saw it before. It is kind of the culmination of the pastime, but here is Lord Balaram killing Viveka demon, which is really incredible. So maybe you can just take a look at that, and it's quite a big, ape gorilla, and of course he has so many powers as well. So I just wanted you to see that for a moment, because I found it to be very beautiful. But in this presence, it's like the demon comes into the presence of Lord Balaram and also his consorts, and he is already like quite a scary personality to see. And the ladies that he's with are just simply laughing and giggling. And that to me already is this sense of like, wow, they feel the protection of their Lord. There's nothing to fear, even if the demon is in front of them, because Lord Balaram is with them and they're fully trusting him. And he is described as wicked, doing things that ultimately hurt himself. And that's also what happens when we are inimical towards devotees of the Lord. And that brings us closer to the need for association and protecting ourselves from connections that close our hearts. And because the demon happens to be a friend of another demon who was already killed by Lord Balaram. And so then there's this whole kind of trauma story going on that he is trying to avenge his already deceased or liberated also demon friend. But that is again that chain of reactions of association, that of connections that bring us away from the divine couple and the Lord. And so there is that also a reminder that devotee is both hopeful, and cautious. On one side, we are understanding that this world is filled with illusion, that we need to beg to be protected from this illusion, and also simultaneously trusting of our full heart the promise of the Lord's protection as we surrender into his shelter. And there are more verses of Gita that I hope I wrote actually numbers correctly too. Yes, this is okay. That's the success. Here still further the greatest secrets of all. This is really important. My supreme message. You are so much loved by me. Therefore, I shall speak for your well-being. Be mindful of me, with love offered to me, sacrificing for me, act out of reverence for me. Truly you shall come to me. This I promise you, for you are dearly loved by me. That's Krishna speaking to Arjuna and speaking to a devotee. Completely relinquishing all forms of dharma, come to me as your only shelter. I shall grant you freedom from all misfortune. Do not despair. And I find that to be this beautiful reminder of there is a promise, and we can be sure that Krishna truly keeps to his promises, especially in such important matters, especially revealing the secret, which is how much we are loved by him. And so then verse 13, that is details okay, I was just sent a verse that probably I missed the last time, and I do want to read it. It's 9:27, maybe. O son of Kunti, all that you do, all that you eat, all that you offer and give away, as well as all austerities that you may perform, should be done as an offering unto me. And let me find it in this version. Whatever you do, whatever you enjoy, whatever you sacrifice, whatever you bestow, whatever austerity you undertake, that enact as an offering unto me. Thus you shall be freed from the bondage of action, which produces good and bad fruits. With the self-absorbed in yoga, by the yoga of renunciation, completely liberated, you shall come to me. This way we are hearing more Bhagavad Gita today than I initially intended. But first, then thank you so much for sending this. So verse 13 brings details of being wicked. And I found it funny because when I was reading those verses specifically of Dvivida showing lower part of his body or tugging on girls' skirts or parts of their clothing, this is something that specifically in this Sangha, I'm certain that as New Yorkers, we are actually not uncommon with. That this is like seeing people who actually behave like this is quite a part of New York scene. And that was just this reminder of like, this is a pointer of one state of mind, which is ungrounded in reality and disturbed. And also it can bring compassion as well for those who are behaving like that. But that's also a segue in a way that maybe the next time you are seeing somebody who is exhibiting such state of mind of being ungrounded, perhaps others would label them as being wicked or not perceiving how they're behaving in a larger context of the public space. Maybe you can think about this pastime and about Lord Balaram liberating the ape demon. And so verse 14 and 15 This is beautiful, as I found, because Lord Balaram is actually really steadily just sitting in a cave or sitting in that mountain range and enjoying a relationship with his devotees and really relishing presence with them, like their presence around him. And he is only getting angry because the demon is disrupting that loving pastime, and because he sees that that demon has crossed the line. Right now he is disturbing his devotees. Until then they are having fun, they are laughing, they're feeling that sense of protection of the Lord. Now this demon is kind of taking a further step of being a further disruption. And here's another point I wanted to bring. This happens when Lord Balaram is still in a so-called state of intoxication. And this is a difference between our own regulative principles and the Lord not needing to follow them. Because even in that state of being so-called intoxicated, he is fully continuing to take his own or hold his own responsibilities as the one who is giving shelter to his devotees. And so while in that state, he's actually still protecting all the devotees that are with him and is acting as, again, that supreme person that they can take shelter of, which is not the case for us if we are to be in an intoxicated state. And this is where we see a lot of issues of alcoholism or other substance abuse, where people who have responsibility over others are actually not fulfilling that duty of protecting them or caring for them because they are actually more often than not in the intoxicated state. And so it again just shows that supreme personalities are just beyond our own regulations, and that they are just all powerful in that way, whatever circumstance they are in. And so then Lord Balaram is also a symbol of a spiritual master, a person we can take shelter of. And he slays all obstacles on the path of devotional service, including demons. And so here, with the demon interrupting that sweet relationship, this is the point when he gets so angry, he's choosing and making that serious decision to just finally kill the demon, who in a way until that point was already like truly putting a lot of things in that bank of just like building up things that are getting him in trouble. And it also shows that he is, we are just read that this is also coming from his own pride. And that is the danger of pride, that it does not allow us to see things as they are. And that clearly just leads us, because of that covering, it brings us closer, or it makes it much easier to create offenses or to disrupt others' sweet relationships with the divine, in their own service, in their own hearts. And that's not what a devotee does in our communities. And that's also why Srila Prabhupada created such wonderful communities, is really primarily to facilitate relationships between devotees, loving relationships between devotees, and for us to have that sense of shelter, that here is a place where we can see that in a way that's normal to love God. That's our rightful position, to remember that we are to be servants and that we are meant to serve, and that's our also source of happiness, while the rest of the world can be doing whatever it's doing, in a way also being that reflection of Tvivida nature. And of course we also have that part of conditioning in ourselves. And so then verse 16, which I already started speaking about, is that beginning of the culmination of the pastime. And it's that decision of Lord Balaram to kill the demon. And so we are going to hear more about it in next days. And in a way, the painting I showed already shows that. But it is really beautiful to even see that everything comes from a decision, or from that sense of inner clarity of this is what's right to do, or this is what needs to happen, and then the rest follows. And so this is in a way a beginning of the end, but also the most important moment of the decision that carries out all the action forward. And we can also hope for that to be like that, that if we make that resolution, when we take vows, when we are set in our heart clearly, that really shoots us like an arrow straight towards the action that can carry us towards the goal. And that's also what Lord Balaram is showing here as well. And there's more from Bhagavad Gita I wanted to read. This is from chapter 11 right now. This is Arjuna speaking to Krishna lovingly. You are the father of the world, of the moving and the non-moving, and you are to be honored as its most worthy guru. There is no other equal to you. How could there be anyone greater? Even in all the three worlds, or one of incomparable being. Therefore, bowing down, prostrating my body before you, I ask you, the worshipable Lord, to bestow your grace, as a father is to a son, as a friend to a friend, as a dearly loved one to a dearly beloved. Be pleased to show your loving kindness, O divinity. And it is that mood that I would like to exemplify more, that sense of continuous asking and begging for my own protection, so I can actually further myself in being situated in things as they are, instead of in a way living the world or being in reality, in my own reality that I actually know is just made up of illusion and lies. And so this is this mood of constant asking and remembering that we need to ask for this veil to be lifted for us. Here is something I would like to end with, and this is from Spiritual Warrior, Volume 3, which is what I was also reading at the beginning of the class. The chapter or the volume is called Solace for the Heart in Difficult Times by Bhaktivedanta Swami. And this is from chapter 8, and it's a reflection or daily meditation practice that I just would like to share as an invitation. And it is meant, and it's also titled How to Strengthen Ourselves. This is the title of the chapter it comes from. And so after the last Bhagavad Gita verse, I hope this is a sweet segue to end on as a way of practical application in our lives. Perhaps this is the only thing you take away from this class, and it's fine. And Bhaktivedanta Swami is an incredible personality, and I hope you have him in your heart and mind more often from now on as well. And so here is the prompt. Reflect on these tools as a daily meditation and make the choice to shift your consciousness, because that's also why we hear Bhagavatam as a way of shifting our consciousness. Treat everyone you encounter as if the success of your spiritual life depends upon the quality of your interactions with them. Reflect upon the person you love the most and aspire to treat everyone with that same quality of love. View all conflicts as your own fault first, which is really bringing those qualities of introspection and humility in all our relationships, which actually can really be so supportive in recognizing our own responsibility for actions and conflicts. Realize that the people in your present environment might very well be the people with whom you will live out your life and who will be with you at the time of death. And this I find to be a very important point, especially in this Sangha. Many of us know each other for a while, and there are also new devotees coming regularly, which is also incredible. But in a way, our relationships here are so important and we are dependent on one another. And so I really appreciate this last point, because it may be actually that at the time of my death, you are the ones who are hopefully supporting me to cross or maybe not, but it is important. And with that, I would like to end this class. I hope it was somewhat supportive for you, and I would like to hear reflections, corrections, comments, questions, anything you would like to share.
Thank you, Ananda Manjari. Such a wonderful class. Bhagya is asking in the chat, how can we serve the Lord with having a job?
Well, the principle is that, and it's true, it's not only a principle, that there is no material impediment on the path of devotional service. And so it's more so our lack of creativity or desire, which also may sound a little bit harsh, because even this question is actually, I see it as very sincere, and perhaps there are also challenges that come with, and there are challenges often for us that come with having other obligations which are different than so-called exclusive devotional service, which is, chanting, hearing Bhagavatam, doing service in the temple, and all these things. And simultaneously, even if we may be under the jurisdiction of an employer or certain systems, we still have freedom of choice and freedom of our mind and of our heart. And so we can choose to actually remember the Lord even when we are working, or to perceive having a job as a way of actually showing that we are taking the steps to taking responsibility for ourselves, while also recognizing that this is a blessing from Krishna to be given an opportunity to be in the world and also simultaneously bridge the two of having a job or being so caught in the material world and also being a devotee. And as far as I know, this is from Srila Prabhupada, who would say, like, be in this world, but not of, you are in this world, but not of this world. And that remembrance that we may be in different sets of circumstances, but we can also always choose how do we perceive our attachment to those circumstances. And so you can have a job and do simply your best and reflect, what is your best looking like and how can you make it sustainable to connect as close as you can to Krishna or to God, as this is the name you used. I hope this is helpful, and I hope this is hopeful as well.
Did Arjuna have a job? Or maybe some Shastra character who had a job but was a good devotee? Is there an example?
He was a warrior, wasn't he? And he actually, that's a beautiful point, because Arjuna spent years of training to become one of the best warriors, one of the best archers. And I don't know if you know anything about archery. I don't know so much, but I know it requires so much focus to even be an archer. But simultaneously, he was doing it from a place of service, and that was also linking his nature with his profession, and then fighting, the most important battle of all history.
Yeah, Srila Prabhupada sent Guru Das and Tamal Krishna Maharaj to go get an outside job, and they were working for Kodak. And Tamal Krishna Maharaj shares, it was during the early days, and he said, I was putting printing the paper into the press, and I was holding it, and I was looking forward to the lunch break so I could go eat my prasadam. And then, and I was like, yeah, Maharaj had a job, then I should have a job. And then Maharaj said, but after 2 months, it became unbearable. And they went back to the temple, and Srila Prabhupada sent them out to go out and chant Hare Krishna, distribute books, and generate income in that way. So there's that's a long discussion we can have on this subject. But it's a wonderful point you made, Ananda Manjari. Do your best and use it in service of Krishna. Like the verse you shared, whatever you do it as an offering to me. And job is definitely an austerity. So whatever austerity you perform, including the karmic job, do it as an offering to me.
And also it can be a way of being honest. Like, if I'm to be honest with myself, if I was to have a whole day to myself, I don't know if I would spend a whole day chanting and reading Bhagavatam. So in a way, if I am to have a job, that is also even a way of teaching myself of how do I really take care of this precious resource I'm given, which is of my time. And maybe that also increases our own desire to like truly honor our time if our time is more limited. And also, as the Hare Krishnas, this is also a beautiful way of showing that we can be responsible beings in this world and simultaneously be devotees, and these are not exclusive, mutually exclusive. We can really do both, and we need to do both. Who was next in questions?
I think Premananda Vilas and Venisha and Adi, but we can do it during the afterglow. Is that okay?
Yes.
You have a few minutes, Ananda Manjari? Cool.
Yes.
Shri Shri Radha Krishna Bhagavan ki Shri Radha Bhagavan ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki.
Hare Krishna. You see, dear devotees, when Tamal Krishna Maharaj quit his karmic job, he became a great sannyasi, a great traveler. He has a lot to share with the world. And what came of it is wonderful. But if someone like me quits his job, I'll just become unemployed and miserable. So I'd better serve Krishna in this capacity and then see what happens. Ananda Manjari, let's do the afterglow. This is a wonderful subject, Krishna and jobs. I bet devotees have a lot to share in this regard.
Well, I want to even frame it as not even Krishna's jobs, but more like our devotional sadhana and other responsibilities. It's like
Yeah.
if you are a married person with a child, it's like you have your own responsibilities as a father and a husband outside of being a devotee, outside of having a job. And we just always have other obligations to hold, which actually teach us more in our spiritual life, because a responsibility is a way of actually growing, be more sensitive to others, and having that sense of showing up and being steady, which also is something we learn from sadhana and from our life. So these things also become learning experiences and opportunities. Premananda Vilas, also known as Abir Saha.
Hare Krishna, thank you, Ananda Manjari. I'm really puzzled by this particular pastime, especially the idea of someone like Vivida, the gorilla, getting like liberated by the Lord. It's such a bizarre thing. And I mean, he seems to be just animalistic. I mean, he's a gorilla, right? He seems even worse than Jagai and Madhai, right? We usually think of Jagai and Madhai as the worst of beings possible, and Mahaprabhu liberated him. And here we see Lord Balaram doing that with Viveda, and I just can't wrap my head around how this creature is getting liberated. Of course, I know that the Lord is absolute, but I was wondering if you shed some light on that. And while you were also speaking, you described how Lord Balaram was intoxicated, and you mentioned how like the Lord's intoxication is different from ours. And what occurred to me was how the only thing I can imagine Lord Balaram being intoxicated on would be love and the love of his devotees. And I was just thinking of how that, like in my mind, that's the only thing that resonates. I can't imagine Lord Balaram like gaining more pleasure and being more intoxicated on anything but the love of his devotees. So thank you for inspiring that thought.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I will start with the second comment and then I'll go to the first, which is, as far as I understand, the notion of bringing up intoxication is also a form of facilitating a pastime, because it starts as him being intoxicated or drinking the liquid made his eyes roll, and for him to be more in this open kind of somewhat unconscious state of mind and to sing. And so through that singing, that attracted the Devi that to come to that place and actually meet Balaram. And so that seems to be again just a way of facilitating a pastime, and also as far as I heard in other situations, a way of even giving a devotees a glimpse of that new facets of the Lord that normally he would not reveal to others. And again, that intoxication, in a way, it's canceling itself out. It's only an intoxication in a way that it brings out some qualities that we can be familiar with as a form of intoxication, and simultaneously his state of mind is completely sober and he holds all his responsibilities and clear-headedness at the same time in that pastime. And so in a way, it's not really an intoxication, it's just a setup in that way. And it's beautiful to even imagine that that's true. The only really way that he can be intoxicated is on love. And about killing of Duvida, it's like, why would Lord Balaram even take time to liberate him by killing him? I know one thing I remember is that these personalities also serve as symbols for us. And so in a way, they take extreme forms and extreme actions as a way of like truly being almost this black and white image of like, this is a cautionary tale of something we're not supposed to be doing. On the other side, they are still playing a role in a pastime, and they are true personalities. They are not just setups in that way. And I do not know when it comes to like his karmic evolution, because some demons have their past lives and they have a bunch of blessings or boons or desires that guide them into take specific births as other demons and to be liberated. I do trust that there is a backstory to that, why specifically Lord Balaram liberated this demon and chose to, and I don't know the backstory of that. I do find it to be beautiful in a way that there's still, I wouldn't say it's a loving relationship between the two demons, but there is some heart attachment between Dvivida and the previous demon that Lord Balaram liberated. And I find that to be also an interesting thing, that it's almost like he's meeting the same destiny as his close friend, who in a sense he is right now serving on behalf of. But I don't know exactly the answer of that question of like why exactly is Lord Balaram liberating Dvivida in this way. I do know that what also brings it out is essentially that he's that crossing that line, as I already said in the class, of disturbing his devotees, and he is also disturbing Lord Hari's kingdom too in that pastime, which is also sweet to know, because Lord Balaram, of course, is such a sweet friend and brother to Lord Hari, and he also is doing that on behalf of his brother. But that's my answer. I would like to know more about it. And that's something to look into further. It's definitely way beyond my realization. Thank you for asking it. And if anybody else here has some insight into it, I would like to hear that. Adi Purusha Prabhu, I see your hand.
Hi, Krishna. Magnificent class. I mean, just you are such a good devotee and so sincere. It's a beautiful thing to just bask in the different nice things you're sharing with us. Thank you. Somebody asked a question, which is a question people ask almost every day. What if you have a job? What do you do if you have a job? Right? We've heard that question. My godfather, my uncle Andy, I went to see him. He said, Adi, you need a job. You want to get a real job? I'll get you a job. We were at Lokavarnatam's house, and his father is a Jewish dentist, and he said, Hare Krishna, why don't you guys get a job? Why don't you get a job? So people don't. We said, Dr. Burstein, we have a job. Our spiritual master has given us a mission. The Brahminical contribution to society is to study the Vedic literature and to present it, to engage in worship and invite other people into that experience and that discipline of worship, and to go about among the people and request and inspire them and encourage them to give a donation or take a piece of literature or listen to some music that illustrates the principles of the real scriptures. So we're supposed to, collect from people like a beggar. Prabhupada said, I'm just an insignificant beggar. We're supposed to ask them for a donation and then collect a lot and take a little bit for our maintenance and give the rest back to the society in the form of temples, in the form of literature, in the form of the performing arts and the graphic arts like you're doing, right? And present the principles with whatever talent we have. And of course, sometimes it's forbidden for a Brahmin to accept employment, paid salary by a karmi. Some of the people serving as spiritual master now will not give Brahminical initiation to somebody who is working for a karmi employer. We have another calling, and it is a valid contribution, and Krishna will support that. So we have the freedom to desire. Krishna, I want to give. Prabhupada had a job, he gave it up. Rupa Goswami and Sanatana, they had a job, they gave it up. Tamal Krishna Maharaj had a job, and he gave it up. They gave up ordinary employment in this world for the sake of maintaining themselves, and were free to do something to push on Lord Chaitanya's mission. Naturally, in the course, I've known many, I've been with Prabhupada for 50 years, 7 days a week, employed by Srila Prabhupada. And I've seen many of my godbrothers who had children and figured out how to use their talents to be gainfully employed and support their families nicely, completely, without working for a karmi. And it's based on desire. If you say, Lord, I want to give myself to you, I'm in this situation temporarily, like a Trojan horse brought inside the fortress. I may be there in the office, but I'll bring cookies, I'll bring flowers, I'll put up a picture, I'll play music, I'll put some essential oil on my nose so that there's a fragrance and anybody walking by will smell it and get prasadam. We are meant to give people access to devotional service, and that's our job. That's our calling, and it can be done. Some people get the philosophy, well, you can't just sit in the temple and chant all day. That's true, but there are ways. Kolovecha Srihar had a little business selling banana cups, right? Taking banana leaves and making cups and selling them. But he wasn't working for a karmi jur, and he gave half of his income for the worship of the Ganges. So we can generate. Prabhupada said to the Dhananjaya, the temple president in London, there's Lakshmi everywhere. You just have to reach up and grab it. It's there. Don't think you have to go work for a karmi. You can use your art, you can use your construction skills, you can use your music, you can use your cooking, you can do anything in Krishna's service and maintain yourself by a way that's legitimate, right livelihood, not giving yourself to a karmi boss. Jeremy's working for us and he's getting initiated by Shiva Ramswami. And he said his former boss would tell him, don't bring that book here. Don't put that picture up. Don't talk about Krishna here, right? You become a. We had some guests on 3rd Street, and I said to them, what do you guys do? And they looked at each other and they said, we're slaves. They laughed. We're slaves. They actually, by hearing the truth about what they do, they realize, we are actually enslaved to a company, and thinking that Krishna won't support us. We have to go work for, American Express or Bank of America or something, and then we will get. Prabhupada said they go get their university degree and then they take the diploma, put it in their mouth, and beg somebody, please employ me, please employ me. He goes, what kind of life is that? There's no character, there's no connection to Krishna, there's no benefit for you or anybody else. We have a forest fire going on. The material world is going to hell in a handbasket, and we have the key, the solution. Yesterday, one of our guests from the guest program, he works for the Executive General of the United Nations in Geneva, Switzerland, and he hasn't been here in 2 years. And he came to New York and he called me up. I was sleeping. Gosh, Krishna, I was tempted not to answer the phone because people tell me, but the phone rang 4 times. I picked it. Hey, it's me, Danny. I'm here. Can we come and see you? So he came with his wife and his daughter. We had a wonderful conversation about Krishna. I gave them old japa beads. I gave them literature, and he wrote a check for $1,000 donation. He works for the Executive General of the United Nations.
Hold right there, Adipusha Babu. Did
She'll
you
talk.
instruct him? Did you instruct him to quit his job?
I told him that that his job is very important, and in the context of his job, he speaks to the chairman of China.
Good.
Directly.
So I'd like you to talk a little bit more about this aspect.
People can do that within the context of the job if they have the desire. My job is to present Krishna consciousness where I am. And if I'm not able to present Krishna consciousness where I am, I'm going to run out of here.
I want to
At least desire, and Krishna will grant.
Let Ananda Manjari speak. Hold on. Thank you, Adipusha. Very valuable contribution. Thank you.
I want to reflect on it and kind of bring the themes of it, because on one side I've heard this as also what Hugo Prabhu was bringing, which is this sense of austerity a job can bring. It's an austerity to not be able to speak about Krishna or almost have this double personality thing, which is like, here's where I'm a devotee, here is where I perhaps cannot share about my one of my most important aspects of life, which is to develop myself spiritually. And on the other side, there is the need to have an employment or to hold responsibilities we're already having, whether it's supporting a family, supporting other causes, maybe it's supporting a temple. And sometimes it's that's one of the ways, which is we have a job and we know it's an austerity, and simultaneously we do it so we can support our communities and those who depend on us. And on the other side also, there is a sense of less freedom, and we need to kind of find ways to reclaim that freedom when it becomes available. It's recommended for us to grasp for that opportunity, recognizing that it's also an opportunity from Krishna. And simultaneously, there are devotees, and this shows that there are just differences in devotees. There are those who, like Adipurusha Prabhu, is just a preacher, and this is his service, this has been his service, is to preach and share about Krishna consciousness directly with others. And there are those who are more of the backhand support, like backstage supporters, whether financially or in other means, or who go deeper into education to actually also have service. And here I even want to call out some people, which is Premananda Vilas, has a PhD in American history and happens to be a curator at a very important institution in Washington, D.C., and is overseeing a bunch of collections. And one of his ways of contribution is trying to bring Prabhupada paraphernalia into a Smithsonian collection, which is usually otherwise closed door, perhaps. And so there are other devotees who actually are kind of having an insight into a wider world surrounded by so-called karmis, or people who are more materially minded. And it's again an austerity to be there. And in this way, they're opening the door for devotion to be actually more accessible to doors. Here I'm receiving a comment. Bhaktivinoda Thakur worked for a British Raj as a magistrate. He was employed by others throughout his working life. So we have just different examples of acharyas who actually have been, developed the highest form of love towards divinity, and simultaneously had jobs in the world and could actually gain such a level of advancement that they were not affected by the environment they were working, and they were actually inspiring to others. I will hold this comment here because there are a bunch of other questions, so I beg for your forgiveness if there's anything else you wanted to say. There's one person who actually sent a question twice, so I thank you very much for your patience. The question is from Gauranga Leela, and the question is, how do we get rid of laziness? And I find that to be an important point, first of all, to even recognize that there is a sense of laziness in us. And already that recognition is, in a way, the first step of combating that, because it comes from a place of honesty with ourselves. And I think that's the most important thing, which is for us to be honest with ourselves. And then I would say that the one way of combating laziness is a sense of agreements with ourselves, whether it's promises we made towards ourselves or somebody else, or it's the recognition that whether I'm feeling lazy or not, that's simply my own mind or my own body giving me certain signs. And let me just try my best today or for the next 15 minutes. And even that already is a way of gaining the momentum. And then you can hold yourself accountable. If you are having a sense of trouble of keeping your own agreements, that's why we have devotee sangha, and we can keep each other accountable. Perhaps you have somebody else that you can ask to check on you, whether you're maybe chanting your rounds, or maybe you're attending Bhagavatam, or anything else that you're choosing to do as a way of developing your sadhana. And so that's one of the ways. Another thing I want to say is that sometimes, and that's kind of the flip side, we may label ourselves as lazy, whereas we are just having our human needs, and perhaps you need more rest, or you are battling sickness on you, or you need a sense of calming down anxieties of the world before you can actually engage more in service. And that's also a totally fine thing, as a recognition of serving your body and serving your sanity before you can actually continue deeper in service. And so there's that balance of caring for our bodies and minds, and wanting them to be the best tools possible for our service. So thank you for that.
Vanisha has her hand up, followed by Bhima Prabhu.
Krishna,
Haribol.
can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Ananda, Manjari, so good to have you back giving class. We really missed you. And I just want to reflect Jamuna Jaya's initial enthusiasm. Whenever I hear your name is giving class, I do a little like Snoopy dance, you know, the Snoopy dance. So I'm so glad you're here. And I just wanted to reflect on so many things you said. Try to be brief, but what you said about the importance of this Sangha and thinking that we may be at each other's deathbeds. And I was thinking, oh my goodness, to have you singing as I was passing to the next life would be incredible. So I just really appreciate what you said there. Also, thank you so much for sharing that poem from Surdas. And I really encourage you, please keep sharing with us, especially the poetry you share. Rumi, everyone is just so inspiring, and I copy and paste dutifully. And to the person who had the question about the job, maybe just some practical things. You know, I think it's been a wonderful discussion about the balance, but just practically, like things you could do tomorrow morning, Monday morning. You know, before you open your laptop or turn on your computer, say your prayers there. You know, thank Krishna for your livelihood, and dedicate all the activities to him. Just, you can do it very quietly. No one needs to hear you. Just close your eyes and say your prayers as you turn on your computer is one thing. And then you can have the database open as a tab on your computer. And then if there's a downtime during the day, you can just look at a verse and reflect. There's some like just little quiet, practical things that you can do to try to start integrating your lives. And then the last thing about the intoxication, I think I want to underscore something you said, Ananda Manjari, which these throughout the entire, I've joined this Sangha in the 10th canto, and the entire 10th canto, right from when Krishna steals butter, has been about all the things that God can do because he is beyond rules and regulations, including getting intoxicated, including, having affairs with other men's wives in the middle of the night in the woods, en masse. Like these are, and I reflect on it, that it's, yes, to show that he's beyond rules and regulations, but to try to help us to underscore how he is different than us, right?
Yeah.
And to reflect on that these things are for God, can do everything, and everything is for him, and they are explicitly not for us. And there's a humility in that, and kind of like an understanding of our place. I think our society so much is like, oh, you can be anything, and you can do whatever you want to do and express yourself, but it's actually a really beautiful exercise in humility to think, no, these things are, God can do them, but I can't. So and I like the reflection that somebody made, like I can't picture Balaram getting intoxicated, but Balaram can do everything, and even the things that are forbidden to us, or potentially seemingly like, quote, immoral. But I think it's a really beautiful meditation, and one that's not easy and like worth spending some time on. So I appreciated that you underscored that point. So Hare Krishna, nice to see you.
Thank you so much. I want to add to that point more, which is even beyond the regulation and rule. Why are we actually discouraged from intoxication? And the reason why is because in our human bodies, in our present condition, to be intoxicated lowers our ability to perceive what is happening around us. It also inhibits our thinking clearly. It often, this is what we see all the time, it leads to us clearly also hurting others much more easily than if we are not under the influence. Which is why that's why you have very strong laws about against driving under intoxication, because people have killed other people driving under influence. That's why you have, associations helping alcoholics, because they tend to hit their children or their wives or their spouses when they're under influence. This is not what Lord Nityananda does when he's intoxicated. And so this is the clarity of this is why we are asked not to do it, because it actually harms us and harms others. and it harms our sadhana and our devotional services as like the baseline outside of all the things that we can do that we will actually genuinely regret for the rest of our lives if they were to happen the way they happen or can happen. And so it's actually a protective measure. Which again, as in this pastime, it's not the case for Lord Balaram. He can do that and protect his devotees, and he can do that and slay a demon, without any trouble. If we could do that, that would be nice, but this is not the case, and this is again bringing us humility. I will proceed to Bhima Prabhu. Haribo. Bhima Prabhu, are you there? I don't see you.
Haribo.
Haribo.
Hare Krishna. Am I okay?
Yes, you are heard.
With the sound? Hare Krishna. Wow, what a wide breadth of questions and answers we're covering here. I really do not have much to add to this at all. Only in the sense that, being 60 some odd years old, kind of been there working for the man and working for myself in both cases. I have found that if we always have to remember, you mentioned in your class about the lifting of the veil, and that veil covers everything. And it covers our day, and that veil is the forgetfulness that Krishna is in our day and with us at every moment. And that if we work in a so-called karmi job, that the one way in which we can facilitate the service that we give Krishna is to make an offering of our day, make an offering of these things which we hold to be mundane in our life, and say, okay, well, Krishna, I can't change this. This is a long haul for today. I'm doing something that is seemingly unrelated to Krishna consciousness, but let me just make this an offering unto you this day. And we will find that Krishna will reciprocate, and he will give us a chance to either engage in a conversation with somebody, or perhaps show ourselves as true gentlemen or true gentlewomen, to act, which is so much more important than preaching. The way we act, also how happy we are, how joyful we are. People will eventually say, well, how is it that you're able to be so happy? Because if we're not happy in what we do, if we view our job as mundane and a drag, people will notice that, and they won't want to hear anything that we have to say about how to imbue love and joy in our lives. We just have to constantly remind ourselves that we're always making an offering unto Krishna, whether that fruit be sweet or whether that fruit be sour. If we offer it, then Krishna will make it a feast of mercy, a feast of grace for us. Anyways, I'm rambling. I would just like to say that we should always remember that. I just wanted to say that we use the word intoxication, and it's actually semantically speaking, even though Prabhupada used it, it's the wrong word. Balaram was inebriated, which is a different word than intoxication. Intoxication is to put a toxic substance in yourself, which is what we do in the material world. They do not put a toxic substance in themselves. They inebriate, which is to abandon yourself without stricture to rules and regulations around you, that you abandon yourself to the feeling of the moment, to the rasa. It's an abandonment principle. So if we understand it more on a subtle level, that Nityananda was abandoned in his actions. We can't figure out why Nityananda walked around completely naked in front of both sexes. We can't figure out why Balaram was swooning with his eyes rolling. If we think of it as the same type of intoxication that we have in this world, this is inebriation, this is ecstasy. So it's very important to understand these subtle differences between what Krishna and his expansions do to enjoy themselves in their play versus what we do in this world. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much for this point, Prabhu. I want to reflect. Oh, this is also a beautiful distinction, what you mentioned just now about the inebriation and intoxication. And also the reminder that there are so many different ways of preaching, and one of the ways of preaching is to share through our own embodiment, like how others perceive us, through our character, through our happiness that is exhibited externally, and through kindness to others. That one of the natural outcomes that and also needs for our spiritual development is gaining more and more sensitivity to our own actions, our own thoughts, our own feelings, and to the actions, feelings, and thoughts of others. And so as we are progressing in our sadhana, that's also why there's, deity worship too. It's like naturally through deity worship, we become more attuned to the details of cleanliness, of like visual atmosphere of what's pleasing, what's not pleasing to the Lord or to the deity of the Lord. And so in that way, one of the ways in which we can share our spiritual practice, even if we are not in an environment which is welcoming of this outward sharing of Bhagavatam, sharing of realizations, sharing of pastimes of the Lord, is actually really allowing others to come in contact with our kindness, with our care, with our love, with our attention to others. So that's a very beautiful point, really. And it goes so far. So many devotees have joined the movement because of kindness of others' devotees. And I even know in my own life, there are a few devotees that came to me that said, I only joined because like the moment where I chose to join was the moment where you like chose to walk me like few blocks away because I was like new to New York and you were a New Yorker. And I just like, this is something I totally would even forget that I did. But it was somewhat that act of like small service that actually was a turning point towards somebody just being like, wow, I chose to become a devotee because I saw kindness. And so, yeah, I do want to welcome, I actually not welcome, encourage us to not underestimate that what kindness and our own qualities of the character can do in contact with others. With that, I would like to close this session. I do need to go into my other engagements, partially a job as well that I'm holding myself. And so thank you so much for your attention, for sticking around for so long, and for welcoming me back. I'm really glad to be back here again. And Krishna willing, my next class is going to be on the 16th of August. Thank you so much for everybody who contributed and for your kind attention and presence.
Thank you, Ananda Manjari. Wonderful class, wonderful Q&A. Anandi, we will put those prayers in the WhatsApp group, the morning prayers. Okay, Hare Krishna. Annabelle, did you like the class? Okay, what's your dream job, Annabelle? A nurse, maybe? A world traveler?
I think violin teacher.
Oh, wow, nice. That's great. You can play violin for Krishna, like Genevieve Harrison. Great. Okay, Henry Prabhu, please take some dust from New Vrindavan, put it on your head on our behalf. Yeah, thank you very much. Okay, Hare Krishna, love you all. Hari Bol. Take good care of yourself. Don't quit your job right away. Take your time. But if you feel it's like a frying pan, there's a whole world of bhakti and adventure available to you. I did that. I don't regret. But again, it's there's no blueprint for those things, but it's there. All right, Hare Krishna. Take care.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Annabelle. Annabelle, what's your brother's name? I forget.
Isaiah.
Isaiah. Isaiah, what's your dream job? A comedian, maybe?
Yeah, I think so.
Jamuna Jaya is a clown. You should talk to Jamuna Jaya. All right. We'll connect you with Jamuna Jaya. And I'm a
That's your
clown too.
job, isn't it? Aren't you
Yeah.
also that?
Yeah. I'm a clown inadvertently. Yeah.
By proxy.
Yeah, by proxy.
Climber? Are you muted?
Climber.
You think you're going to be
Okay.
a climber?
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. We need more kids. We need more kids in our program here.
Yeah, you should become childlike for once, Bhima Prabhu, and we'll have a kid right there.
I
Shave your
stop at
beard.
childishness.
Start with
Childish.
shaving your beard. It all starts externally.
No,
I'm
they won't see
joking.
who I really am. Hare Krishna.
Yeah. Okay, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.